450cc dirt bike, meant to be ridden fast in competition. As riders, a lot of us look to find the perfect bike. When I started out falling in love with dirt bikes again, I was reaching to find the perfect all-around machine, the do-it-all bike. And I'll tell you right now, don't waste your time because it doesn't exist. But saying that, there are bikes out there that can get you close to that unicorn. And in today's video, I got the pleasure to ride Todd's 2009 WR450F. So I have a pretty rocky past with 450cc dirt bikes. The 450L was just always a huge letdown for me. I always asked it to do things that it really wasn't meant to do. I'm a guy that likes to ride slow, technical, and I could really care less about the higher speed riding. But in a dual sport scenario, you need the extra power. There is no replacement for displacement. On the road, the higher CC, normally the better experience you're gonna have. And that is really where the 450cc dual sport shines. KTM, Husqvarna, they definitely rule the market, but we have offerings from Honda. The WR isn't necessarily street legal from the factory. I know some countries it is, so you really don't have a lot of options to choose from. When the 450L came out, I really thought it was the answer, and I spent a lot of time trying to make that bike work. And in stock form, it was pretty much worthless for me. I sold my original one, bought a second one, and even with thousands of dollars worth of modifications, I just still wasn't happy with it overall. It was just not enjoyable to ride slow. And that is why I made the next choice to go with the FE350. It still performs amazing at low speed, but you do sacrifice a lot when it comes to the pavement. Now, during our stay in Arizona, I had the pleasure to ride with Todd. He let me stay at his house with his family, and we did some awesome riding in Tucson. On the first day, we ended up switching out bikes, and I got a chance to ride his fully built WR450F on some gnarly single track. And I'll say right now, and you'll see here in a bit, this bike was as close as you could get to the do-it-all unicorn of dual sports. He had every necessary modification done to really make it perform well in all aspects of riding. Now, like I said, you're still gonna sacrifice some things, but I will say without a doubt that this was the most well-rounded bike that I've ever ridden. But I don't wanna waste any more time. Let's get to the riding clips in this review of Todd's WR450F.
Another like couple miles of single track or onto the road.
If you're tired, we can hit the road.
I'm not tired.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go hit that.
I'm always down for the single track. You want to swap bikes on the single track?
Sure.
Hopping back onto the WR for a bit. I'm not sure if I got any footage earlier, but I'm gonna review this bike. So this is Todd's 2009 WR450F, and let me tell you, as soon as I hopped on this bike, my mind was blown. For a 450, this is the best running bike that I've ever ridden. He's got this thing dialed. Todd takes really good care of his stuff. He has a lot of pride in his work, so I shouldn't be surprised, but literally everything on this bike is dialed, and we're about to be taking up some gnarly stuff here. So it does have a recluse clutch. And for stuff like this, all the slow technical stuff, it makes this 450 so manageable. And honestly guys, I messed up with the 450L. I heavily regret not throwing a recluse on it, because that was my only real gripe, was the low speed stalling. And you can be super lazy with this recluse. And for dual sport riding and adventure riding, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, my mind is blown. He definitely has the throttle tamer on this too. So mellow. Most of the 450s that I've ridden, it's like on or off. You're constantly like chopping your way through the trails, but this thing just goes. It tracks super nice. The suspension is dialed. He's got like every upgrade that you can do to a WR. We got a steering stabilizer.
And I can definitely notice that with all these rocks, like I'm not getting jabbed all over the place. That's something that I'm definitely going to throw on the Husky here soon. But I'll have to ride a newer WR soon, one that's fuel injected with similar mods. But I can't even tell this thing is carbureted. Like, this thing is money. For a 450, yeah, the weight is very obvious coming off of the 350. Like, the 350 feels like a mountain bike. This feels like a dual sport. And a lot of that is he just has a lot of gear strapped to this thing, which for stuff like this is awesome. I mean, we got 5 gallons of fuel on board. But I just can't get enough of this thing, man. The power's there when you need it, and it's just buttery smooth. I'm floating through this stuff. I really messed up not doing a Recluse on the 450L. I should have put the heavier flywheel weight on it, and these things are just so much better on the road, the 450s. The 450L is an amazing bike on the road, especially with the factory sprocket, all of the dampening that comes from the factory. Like, there's almost no vibrations on the road versus the 350 back there. That thing vibrates like hell. I've rode a few WRs in the past, and this one in particular, I don't know what it is about it. It has to be the Recluse, the throttle tamer, the flywheel weight, whatever mods that he has done to it. Obviously you can see the big Trail Tech display right in front of my face here. Let me make sure we're going the right way. But Todd is having the time of his life on the 350. The weight and the suspension difference, that is the game changer with the 350. The power too, love that usable linear power. But honestly guys, throttle wise, this thing is less fatiguing. I think a lot of it has to do with just the Recluse and not having to worry about stalling. Yeah, you can still kind of flame it out if you try hard enough, but it's only happened to me once earlier. This WR, man, this platform's been around for so long. I remember some of my family members, shout out to Seth and Adam. I used to see them on these bikes and kind of like wonder why they were riding them as dual sports, like on the road and whatnot. But now I understand why there's such a following for these bikes, and these things are money. The reliability too that the Japanese bikes are known for. You can really service this in miles rather than hours with the KTMs and the Huskies. Woo! But I am pleasantly surprised. Granted, I wouldn't have this reaction on a stock one, so, but that's with any bike, man. Most bikes you buy, you're gonna have to do something to it. That's why the aftermarket exists, man. We just try to make our bikes the best that we can. And this was his first dirt bike, so he's put a lot of love into this thing, and it really shows. I can understand why he doesn't want to get rid of it. When you've got something that performs this well, you know, has paid for itself 10 times over, like, why would you get rid of it? That's one thing I would consider keeping. I've just never got that feeling with a bike, to be honest. Like, this thing can literally do everything. Highway speeds to slow single track. And look at that, right on the power. So I've had a lot of comments like, dude, why have you never tried a WR? And honestly, the 250 would be more appealing to me, but as a dual sport, you need that extra power. Like, I wouldn't have a 250 as a dual sport. That's why the 350 for me kind of bridges the gap, but this thing is perfect. Especially if you don't need all of this luggage on here. You could shed the weight down quite a bit from what he has, but it's so well balanced that it's not bothering me a bit. Do I feel more comfortable on the Husky in this stuff? Yeah. Would I rather be on the Husky in this stuff? Yeah. But this just does it so well that I really can't complain. I mean, I haven't had to shift once. That is the beauty of the Recluse. God, the Husky looks good though. Woo! But these bikes have been around for so long. They're so easy to maintain. Ouch! That kind of hurt. I was giving it all this praise, and I just flamed it out. I'm being super lazy though with it. I can't blame the Recluse for that. funny, the luggage that he has on here almost acts as a set of steg pegs, which I've never tried before, and I probably wouldn't. I've heard one horror story in one of the enduro groups that did it for me. This guy went down like a ditch almost, like it was tiny, and he just got caught up in the steg pegs and flipped over the handlebars, and dude, he got paralyzed from that. Life completely changed. That's insane. So I feel that way about knee braces too. That's why I don't wear them anymore. I've heard of several people having the same issue that I did with breaking my tibial plateau. The knee brace just kind of, you know, oh buddy, getting all over the place. Speaking of knees, the knee brace just locks your knee in an unnatural position, so it can't bend the way that it needs to in the event of the crash. Every crash is different. Is it going to save you 8 times out of 10? Maybe. But man, I was that unlucky 2 out of 10 that really changed the course of my life for a while, and I still have a lot of problems to this day. Like, the twisting is just sharp pain still. I get really sore, but that might be for life at this point. And this is where this bike is going to shine even better, is in this wide open stuff, especially with that C Concept seat. Ooh wee! She is ultra comfortable. I really want to get my hands on a newer one so I can kind of judge my opinion based off of this. All the new 4-strokes need to be desmogged, tuned, so it'd have to be something similar to this, because this thing even has Dynojet ignition system. So even though it's carbed, it's firing just a little bit differently. And like I said, if my 450L ran the way that this did, I would still have the 450L without a doubt. And that just makes me wonder, like, if I threw a Recluse on it, heavier flywheel weight, would it have made the difference? Because I had everything else done to it. The exhaust, the Vortex, throttle tamer, pretty much everything except the Recluse. So is that really what makes this bike so manageable? I don't know. But yeah, having that extra power, being out here in the desert on these long, wide open roads is amazing. But he's having no problem maintaining speed on the 350 up there.
Well guys, that pretty much wraps up my experiences with Todd's WR. I absolutely loved this bike. And like I said, I really want to get my hands on a newer one to see if you can make it as good. Now, if you think you know of a better unicorn bike, drop it down in the comments below, but I think this one will be hard to beat. With the newer bikes and the fuel injection, all of the emissions regulations, they're just so choked up that even when you uncork them, I still don't know that you could get better performance than this WR. There's a lot of cons that come with a carbureted bike, and it really just comes down to the tuning and having your bike set up for the elevation, the temperature. There's so many different factors that will make a bike run well or worse. And yeah, thank you, Todd, for letting me ride your bike. Believe it or not, he actually listed this thing for sale. He's got several other bikes and it just wasn't getting the love that it deserved. I was definitely sad to hear that, and I don't know if he actually followed through with selling it. But yeah, I really was blown away with riding this bike, and I look forward to testing out some more in the future. So if you are new, consider subscribing, drop a like if you enjoyed, comment down below, and until the next video, live free and adventure daily.